Here's a few simple techniques to show you that you don't necessarily need to use these to take your tyre off. Right, so I'll be honest from the get-go, tyre levers do still have their place. There will be times where you will have to use a tyre lever, but I would say for probably 80% of wheel, rim and tyre combinations out there, with the right techniques, you'll be able to take a tyre inner tube off using just your hands. I'm going to show you how. First things first, obviously, deflate tyre. Once all the air's out of your tyre, what you're looking to do first and foremost is make sure the bead isn't stuck anywhere around in that rim bed, because that's one of the fundamental things that's going to make that tyre feel super tight. So I'm going to work my way around with my fingers and thumbs, just squeezing the bead into the centre of the rim bed to make sure it's freed up all the way around and not stuck anywhere. So that's kind of step one. Okay, that's good. Step two, there's a certain amount of slack always in that system. The tyre doesn't fit super tight to the rim. There's slack there. What you need to do is move all that to one place. And the way I do that is I hold the wheel against myself like that. I start at the valve. I'll actually grab the tyre between my finger and thumb and just pull. Like, again, just checking that rim. I'm just pulling, adding a bit of tension as I go, just bringing that with me all the way around till I get to here. And then I'm going to pop the wheel on the floor, hold it between my legs, keep pulling. Okay, now I know that all of the slack in that system, and you can probably see it on camera, is now in this point of the tyre. So I've worked all that slack round to the same point, and that's really crucial. And now what I can do is use that to just push that over the edge of the rim. Use my other hand and roll that tyre carefully off the rim, like so. Okay, so you saw that was a quick and easy way of getting that tyre off without using the tyre levers, so you haven't pinched the inner tube at all, you've not skinned your knuckles on the spokes when the tyre lever slipped out. Really simple. I'm also going to show you now how to refit the tyre, also without using any tyre levers. My golden rule before you fit any tyre is always to put some air in the inner tube. This is something I see people do time and again out on rides at the side of the road when they're fixing punctures, is to try and fit a flat inner tube into a tyre, and it just makes your own life really hard. If you pop some air, whether that's from your mini pump or you can actually even do it with your mouth on most inner tubes, if you pop a little bit of air, it just gives that inner tube its shape. And that, as you'll see in a sec, is really, really important. Probably a bit less than that, but yeah, just enough so to give it its shape. Set that aside for a second. Okay, so when it comes to fitting the tyre, I'm quite fussy. I do like my tyre logo to match up with my valve. So I'm going to just pop that, start that next to the valve hole. So I'm just going to feed on one side of the tyre with my thumbs, like so. Just push that over the last edge into the rim bed. So that's your first step. Got my logo lined up with my valve hole. Now you'll see why it's so important to have a bit of air in that inner tube. If I drop that inner tube into that tyre now, as you can see, it's almost going to find its own way in. It just makes fitting that tyre so much easier. And as I said, if you have a flat inner tube at this point, it's going to be falling out of the tyre and making a right mess. And it's just so much more fiddly. So I'm going to start with putting the valve through. And I'm going to lift the tyre into place. And then literally just pop the inner tube inside the tyre. So that's where I want to end up with next. Tyre's on one side, inner tube's now in. I know that it's sat evenly because I've pumped it up. So now I'm going to put the other side of the tyre on. For that, I like to work towards the valve. I'll come back to why in just a second. So I start opposite the valve and I start just pulling the tyre into the rim bed, working my way around. Now, if you remember a few minutes ago, I was explaining how the way to get the tyre off the rim easily using your thumbs was to work all that slack round to one point. So you're kind of thinking you're doing the reverse of that now. So as I fit the tyre, I'm thinking just to make sure I'm kind of pulling that slack with me, because that's going to make your life so much easier when you get to that final point. Now this is the bit where most people struggle. Now, people say you need iron thumbs to be able to push tyres on. I don't have iron thumbs, trust me. It's just about technique. You don't need to be super strong. So if you get to this point and the tyre is just super, super stiff, again, go back to that technique we used with the removal, which is to just work slack. Make sure there's no stuck, the bead's not stuck. Just working that slack round with you, pushing with your thumbs. Okay, and then each time you come back, what you'll find is that tyre, the slack's all in this area, so it should be easiest to fit. Now actually I can push this on quite happily now. That's, I'm not using tons of force, as you can see. I'm just going to use the tyre as your lever. You don't have to try and lift the bead or anything like that. You're pushing here on the tyre sidewall and then just pushing that and letting it find its own way over so it slots into place. So there we have a tyre fitted using just my thumbs. The last thing I always do, that's why I finish at the valve, is just to push that valve up inside. So then you can see the valve just pushing up there. It's not trapped then, because that bit of the inner tube is always thickest where there's the overlap for the valve. So you don't want any traps. If you really want to make doubly sure, and again, this is another really good reason why you pump the inner tube up a little bit first, but you can look now in there and I can see by just pulling the tyre back, just checking the inner tube not trapped anywhere underneath. Of course, I know it's not because there's air in it, so it's round, not flat. And that's another reason why you don't fit a flat inner tube into a rim, because it's easier to get it trapped under the tyre bead, which will cause it to go off bang with a loud noise if you then go and inflate it. Okay, so that's it fitted. Just pump the tyre up now and away we go.